Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Believe in Bingo podcast with Solomon and Wiilcots. And it's right here on Valley Sports, Ohio. We have a very special guest, Cincinnati Bengals left tackle Orlando Brown Jr. joining us on the show. Orlando, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you having me on.
All right, hey, look, great to have you. I'm telling you right now, inquiring minds want to know. You had it good, man. You leave the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, to come join us in Cincinnati, Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow. What factored in your decision? Kind of walk us through that and why you chose to come play with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, man. I mean, to me, it was a move that made the most sense leaving Kansas City, man. I can't say enough great things about this organization. Just the direction that they've been moving, the pieces and people that they've brought in over the last few years since I've been in the NFL. I feel like this was a fit for me as far as that type of positive energy where they're moving as a franchise. On top of that, schematically, I feel like the left tackle position in this system was something that will be able to help elevate us to a higher level. And really looking forward to being able to suit up with these group of guys, these group of men in the locker room, man. But I mean, man, it's so many different things that went into it, man. But obviously, just direction that they've moved as a franchise, the people they brought in, and then the scheme that we're running now.
Yeah, we appreciate you saying that because I know we've been able to see this organization. It's grown tremendously, and you've got some friends in this locker room too. And I remember watching you play in college. I remember you opening up holes for Joe Mixon, him running through it. You guys celebrating in the end zone, and you kind of get to do some of that again. How much of that factored in the fact that there are some familiar faces in the locker room?
Yeah, man, it was something that's always kind of been talked about. I remember coming out through the draft process. So me and Joe Mix came out of high school the same year, so we're the same high school class to Oklahoma, and with a few other big name players that we played with then and now in the NFL. But it's something we've always kind of talked about, just speaking about playing together as teammates on this level. And man, I remember during the draft process, he mentioned to me a few times about coming to play for the Bengals, and I remember I had a few visits and workouts with the Bengals and everything during the draft process, man. But I think timing is everything. Where we're at now, where he's at in his career. I mean, it's shooting up with him again.
I often remind people, Orlando, that while Zach Taylor starred at Nebraska, the hated rival of the
Yeah,
Oklahoma Sooners, his father
yeah,
played on national championship teams at Oklahoma. I don't know if he told you that, but so
yeah.
he's got some of it in his blood because he grew up right there in Norman. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right, man. I've had a few conversations with him, man. He grew up right there in Norman, so I'm real familiar where he's from. I bought my first home when I got to the NFL in Norman. That's where I would spend my first few off seasons, man, just going back and grinding at school because it felt right to me. So he has a very similar feeling about Norman as well.
Yeah, see, it's just like family coming back together. And that's why it's such a good thing. And I know everyone was excited when you decided to come play for the Cincinnati Bengals. And look, you started off your career coming into the NFL. You were a right tackle, and
Hmm.
then you wanted to play left tackle. You wanted the burden of responsibility that came with that position. It was a
Yeah.
position that your dad played in this league at a very high level. What
Hmm.
all went into you wanting to make that transition? And then once you did it, what all went into just physically being able to transition to the left tackle spot?
Yeah, man. So growing up, man, my dad was a defensive tackle in his life. His last year of college, they moved him to right tackle. Coming into the NFL as a right tackle, playing right tackle for Bill Belichick in Cleveland, playing right tackle for the Baltimore Ravens in '96, and then continuing that path on. And he personally never felt like he got the respect that he deserved, even though he was a high level player, as you said. And they drafted Jonathan Ogden, who started out at left guard his first year and then moved to left tackle for the Raven franchise. So it was nothing that he ever necessarily argued, but something he always encouraged to me was be better than me, be better than me as a father, be better than me as a brother, be better than me and all as a football player. And so from day one, he always preached about me playing left tackle because in his opinion, in his eyes, it was the better position and the harder position. And so he always pushed that on me. Got to high school, they felt like I was too big to play offensive tackle, so they were going to try to put me at left tackle. They felt I was too big to play left tackle, so they're going to try to put me at right tackle. And my dad said, hell no, put him on defense. So they
Yeah.
put me on defense, and I played defense my freshman year as opposed to playing right tackle because it was that important to him that, I pursued my dream as a left tackle. And so fast forward however many years later, man, I'm in Baltimore. Ronnie Stanley gets hurt. We're going into a practice where we're playing, getting ready to play the Washington Commanders. And man, they moved me over to left a day before the game. I go to Coach Harbaugh. I remember DJ Fluker was having a rough practice at left tackle. I said, "Hey, Coach, he feels more comfortable at right. I play left my whole life. I know I don't have any live reps in the NFL, but I, love the opportunity to be able to do that." I went out there, man. I played a really good game. Fast forward a few more weeks later from that, Ronnie Stanley gets hurt again for the season, and
Yeah.
I end up having my first season at left tackle, man. And it was honestly a dream come true for me because, I prior to that, man, I had an Orlando Brown Jr. Day at my elementary school, and they put out one of my note cards from second grade, who asked me where I would be 25 years from now, and I said the starting left tackle for the Baltimore Ravens. And I mean,
Wow.
man, I just it's always been a dream of mine to be able to play a left tackle position, but the transition wasn't necessarily easy. I know I'm going on and compare it to boxing, man. If someone were to ask you to fight in the opposite stance, it's a lot of awkwardness that goes into it with your jabs, your straights, your hooks, your timing, your rhythm, your feet, your nervous system. So for me, it was very hard for me to transition to the right side, and I was a different fighter as a right tackle than I am as a left tackle. So that's the best way I could put it.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you went from right tackle to left tackle, it's for many of us, it was seamless. And I
Yeah.
remember it happened overnight.
Yep.
And I was just thinking about your dad, Zeus is
Yeah.
what we called him. And I
Yeah.
remember how much they loved him in Baltimore, Ozzie Newsome and all those guys, and Ray Lewis and all of them.
Yep.
But I just remember one season where he played defensive line and offensive line.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that too. Yeah.
It was just phenomenal. And so you reminded me of him so much. But
Yeah.
that kind of athleticism is one thing, but people don't realize from the neck up,
Yeah.
you've got to be able to make those adjustments. Kind of talk about that. And you kind of described some of the technique stuff,
Yeah.
but you had to have, I'm sure, a lot of patience with yourself once you got over there. If there was ever a moment where maybe you struggled, you just kind of had to be patient with yourself. What was that like? Just that transition?
Yeah, yeah, no, man. I mean, and you're a pro, you were a pro, you get it. So, it's sometimes being a professional at the highest level is really more mental than anything. And it's really more about our confidence than anything. And so, man, for me, the transition was really more so just making sure to keep that confidence because there were some really good plays where I surprised myself, and there were some bad plays where I'm like, man, I've never been in this position as a left tackle. So, I wasn't able to necessarily recover as easy as possible. But
Yeah.
for me, man, I really just tried to take a really big leap in my confidence in myself, my confidence in the game, my confidence of my style of play within the scheme and system, and trying to elevate it from there.
Well, you now have entered, I think, a very unique position, a rare
Yeah.
position, where when it's all said and done, people are going to be asking you this question. So I might as well be the first to do so.
Yeah.
Give me some of the similarities between Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, and
Yeah.
maybe give me in some ways in what ways might they be different?
Yeah. As far as similarities, man, I think when we look at the quarterback position, especially the great ones, we can say they're all a great leader. They're great in the locker room. They're like glue guys in the locker room. Everyone wants to be around them. And they're all very hard workers. I would say where 9 and 15 differentiate different times in their career as well. So my perspective is a little bit different. But gosh, man, I would say obviously with Pat being where he is, he's already won those MVPs. He's already won the 2 Super Bowls. Coach Reed, he's more of an old school approach coach. So you could say Pat has a different approach than Joe. With that being said, what they've created here, what we've been able to, I'm coming in on, and what Zach and Joe have been able to create here is so special and so different.
Yeah.
I think that in the long run, that's what's going to make Joe's career so unique and so special is in here, and how easy it is for Joe to be able to communicate to our coaches, communicate to the players about things that he likes and wants. And not that Pat doesn't do that, but I just feel like, man, where we kind of are overall, I think here in Cincinnati, man, it allows Joe to be able to have the freedom to do those things.
A couple of more questions before we let you go.
Yep.
You come a part of an offensive line that's been kind of building and growing, and everyone's looking at you as that final piece with a real veteran group of guys. You know, I know
Yeah.
Cordell Volson is a second-year guy, but really most of you guys are veteran players. How good can this offensive line be, and how does it adapt to the personality of your offensive line coach, Frank Pollock?
Well, with football, man, I think you only can go as far as your offensive line can go. And when you've got a really, really tough and rugged renegade like group that loves the game of football like we do, that truly appreciates our craft, that has nothing but the utmost respect for Frank Pollock, our offensive line coach, and really understands the scheme and system that we're playing in, I feel like the sky's the limit, man. And for us, everything starts with Frank, who he is as a coach, who he is as a man. He's a perfectionist and he's always preaching mastering the mundane. And that's our standard. That's our mindset in our room to allow us to go out there each and every day and get better and better each and every day. And as you said, man, when you've got a veteran like group, I know Cordell's only his second year. I think he played in 22 games last year, though, which is, crazy for a rookie. But yeah, man. So I just feel like where we are as a unit, where we are as a group, we haven't even come close to as good as we're going to be. But I feel like where we are today is better than they were where they were last year, just simply based off of time and all of the hard work that we put in.
Well, absolutely. And finally, you guys are now ready to embark upon the 2023 season. You're going to start on the road at Cleveland. You
Yep.
know what the AFC North is all about, so this doesn't come as any surprise to you. What is it like playing in the AFC North, and what more specifically do you expect week one against guys like Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith?
Yeah, it's gonna be a hard fought battle, man. AFC North is one of those divisions. You got to bring your hard hat, and your lunch pill, man. That's one of those. It's just one of those situations where I think everyone last year in the division split. So that's just the type of ball that's being played, man. You look at the quarterbacks. You got Lamar, you got Joe, you got Deshaun Watson, you got Kenny, you've got T.J. Watt, you got Myles Garrett. You know what I mean? Baltimore just signed Jadeveon Clowney. Gosh, man. I mean, and the list goes on and on just as far as the type of talent on both sides of the ball for the division. But it's going to be a dogfight, and I think that's the beauty of our division and our sport, man. Which is one of the reasons this team has been able to be in the AFC Championship for the last 2 years, is because it's so competitive week in and week out within this division. I mean, you're only going to get better, and you're only going to be ready for those big moments when they come in the playoffs or the Super Bowl, whenever it may be. So, man, I'm looking forward to the matchup next week. I know it's going to be a hard-fought battle, but I think we're very much fit for what's about to go down.
Orlando Brown Jr., welcome to Cincinnati. It's so great to have you. It's so great to have you on the Believe in Bengal podcast. Look forward to talking to you again sometime soon, okay?
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you.
All the best. We'll be back with more.